homeboy, where they're playing their 5th straight AFC champion. That's an achievement in and of itself for Patrick to go 5 straight at home.
Yes.
Again, he won 2 of them against Tennessee and who was the other one they beat? Buffalo. They beat Buffalo. Yeah, beat Tennessee and Buffalo, and obviously they have lost 2 home games to Brady and Burrow.
Yes.
Okay, no real shame in that. But the point is, 5 straight. Okay, so in the big picture here, you even have on defense. I do have respect for Kansas City's defense, and obviously Willie Gay, the linebacker, doesn't have a whole lot of respect for Cincinnati's offense because he's on the record. You know, what scares you or what do you respect the most or whatever. He just said a flat-out nothing about their offense, and he said they're going to come in. He's a pretty good player. He was a second-round pick out of Mississippi State. So, and he every time I watch, he's pretty good.
Right.
But he says they're going to come in and try to do to us what they did to us last year or even this year when they played at Cincinnati. They try to, as he said, big boy you. Well, they do. They will run it down your throat if you allow it because both the running backs are physical.
Yeah.
And they both have athletic ability in the hole. They can make you miss and run through you.
And both of them can catch the ball out of the backfield really well. They don't have a problem throwing the ball, especially on the screens to set P. Ryan because he's such a load to get down once he gets ahead of steam. But the problem that it presents, Skip, is that if you play a light box, they'll run it on you. And then when you drop the safety down, now that means you're going one-on-one with Higgins and Chase outside. Is that what you really want, Skip? Because think about it. Look at the guys they got playing. I understand you said Snead, but Snead mainly is the slot corner.
Yeah, but he's really good at what he does, and he is a great blitzer. So I figure they'll get Burrow maybe 4 times. He'll be on his back 4 different times, but as long as he clings to the football, because he's not a sack fumbler.
Right.
So if he hangs on to the football, I think you just keep overcoming that because that's what he does.
Right.
Okay, so then the onus is back on your team, my homeboy, and let's see what happened in the AFC Championship game a year ago. Remember, they jumped out to a lead. They led 21-10 at halftime, and they got outscored 17-3 in the second half and overtime. So my homeboy at home last year with no ankle issue at all, he scored 3 total points in 2 quarters and an overtime.
Right.
Okay, so how did that happen? Let's see what happened in the 3rd quarter because this was the turning point in reopening the door.
A very bad interception.
It was just a bad idea, and B.J. Hill got his hands up. He sort of double-clutched it, if we could see it again. He thinks, and then he double clutches, and then he tries to force it.
But even if he didn't, what you call him? Hendrickson's going to pick it.
Yeah.
Skip, look at even if he doesn't, Hendrickson's going to pick it.
He's jumping for the ball already. Okay, so the ball gets tipped up, and BJ not only tips it but catches it. And now all of a sudden, wait a second, here we go.
You got a ball
and they take it right home and go for 2 and make the 2, and it's 21-21. Okay, now we get to overtime.
No, it's 21-18.
What I think
it was 21-10, 21-18.
Okay, right? but no, they'd already scored. They'd scored a field goal. So that tied it after this play. But that was the turning point where you said, wait a second.
Right.
Cincinnati is right back in this game. So that ties the score. Okay, so we go to overtime, and it's the classic example of Kansas City wins the toss, takes the football, obviously. And usually, in this case, it's the rule that got changed where you need both teams to get a chance,
that's
right?
The football, yes.
Okay, so let's see what Patrick did. He had the first 3 plays. This is the first 3 plays of overtime. He throws it to Robinson, and that's a bad throw high, although I think he was afraid that it might get picked. And then 2nd and 10.
Same one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, Henderson.
This 2nd and 10, and that almost got picked right there. That's a terrible throw. 2nd and 10. Whoo! Oh, it almost got picked. 6th, and okay, now we go to 3rd.
But you can tell the way he's throwing the ball. He's lacking confidence. You can tell the way he's throwing it.
3rd and 10. I'm forcing this one up. Jesse Bates gets a hand on it. Von Bell catches it on the deflection. And now the tide has turned. We'll see it one more time. So he makes 3 poor throws, certainly by his standards, in overtime that open the door for Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow ends up hitting T. Higgins for 8, T. Higgins for 9, and they start mixing in Joe Mixon and Mixon, and they just go right on down, and they can't stop them, and they end up with a walk-off field goal, short field goal. And so that was that. Okay, so to me, you can already see it coming that Joe Burrow has elevated himself above Patrick, because Joe Burrow doesn't do that at the end of games. He has been very clutch at the end of games. But it's just like Brady clutch. It's not spectacular clutch. It's not like a walk-off 60-yard bomb clutch. It's not like combine clutch where you're throwing the ball out of the stadium kind of clutch. It's just methodically clutch. He just keeps making the correct throw to the correct receiver at the correct time with the correct pass that hits him right in the hands, and he catches it. So I think that we're going to see more of the same in this game. I'm going to say they score exactly what they scored last year, 27. I'm going to go Kansas City 21, just because I do have looming, growing respect for the Cincinnati defense. It's a big play defense.
Yeah.
And I think Patrick will be 95% of Patrick, and I think he's still going to have a hard enough time that they will hold them to 21 at Kansas City. So I'm going to go 27-21 visiting team.
Well, they're definitely going to have to, Skip, I think they're going to have to do what they did last week against Jacksonville, which is run the football. Pacheco, McKinnon, I don't know how much Edwards-Helaire is going to factor in, but they're going to need to run the football because they're going to have to keep them honest. You cannot let Hendrickson, you cannot let Hubbard just constantly bombard your quarterback. And they do a great job of collapsing the pocket, and then you got Reader pushing the pocket from inside. So you're going to have to run the football to keep them honest. And I believe if you can run the football, and that's what Cincinnati can do really well. They can run the football with Mixon. They can run the ball with P. Ryan. And not get into a situation where Joe Burrow is just dropping back, throwing the football, although he's more than capable considering the weapons that he have outside. So with that, I think it's going to be a close ball game. It's always a close ball game, and turnovers play a huge factor. The question is, can Cincinnati force the Bengals to give them a turnover late and steal a possession, or does Cincinnati do what it always does, get a turnover from them and steal a possession? Because remember, it was last year, it was this year, Skip. Kelsey had the first down. He's going, and they keep, and boom, they open the door.
Yep, I agree. Speaking of McKinnon, Jerick McKinnon, he did make one X factor point to me that I'm fascinated to watch unfold. Because of Patrick's ankle, does that, as he said, inspire us? He said they're very inspired that Patrick's been out at practice and looking like Patrick. So when you've lost to one quarterback 3 straight times, to one team 3 straight times, are you suddenly, as the quote-unquote home underdog, which they're not, they have been, but again, effectively they are, because I think it's around a point
and a half now.
Point and a half, okay, so point and a half, but you usually get 3 for home field. So they are probably considering themselves a home underdog in their minds. Is there an inspiration factor just because Mahomes sucked it up and played, obviously, against Jacksonville in the second half, and he's really sucking it up to play full force, full speed this time? So, again, are they going to be, as McKinnon says, inspired by this? Well, that's what you got going for you.
At the end of the day, you can be inspired, Skip, but if the team is just better, and I think, I still believe Mahomes is the best quarterback, but it's not like the Grand Canyon gap. Joe Burrow is a top 5 quarterback. If you put him at number 2, Skip, I'm not going to debate you and say you're wrong. So the gap is really close. And then you look at the wide receivers, you look at the running back. I think Kansas City has a better offensive line, but the running backs, I'll say Cincinnati. I'll say the skill positions. I'm going to say, even with Kelsey, I'm still going to say I believe Cincinnati, because you have Chase and you have Higgins. And Hayden Hurst. Skip, Hayden Hurst was really good. I remember he was in Baltimore. Now, it didn't pan out for him. I think he ended up going to Atlanta. I think he went to Atlanta after he left Baltimore, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe.
No, he did.
Atlanta. But the defense, Skip, the defenses, I think, were the difference. 16 points allowed. They're very good in the red zone.
Okay, here's the biggest picture on Joe Burrow. Think about what he's accomplished in a relatively short time. So this is the biggest mistake The Ohio State ever made in its football history, letting him go because he couldn't hack it there.
He couldn't beat out Hackins. He couldn't beat out Barrett. It's not a knock on them. It's like Justin Fields.
I know, but can't you see it?
No.
If you have him there, can't you see what he is? Or is he too understated as a player to catch your eye? Is what he does not quickly apparent in practice? How effective he is.
I think sometimes we've seen that, Skip, where guys are not the starter, and then all of a sudden they go somewhere else, and you're like, well, hold on. It's kind of like Justin Fields. Jake Fromm,
Okay.
Really? Jake Fromm, if I'm not mistaken.
People do make mistakes. These coaches do make mistakes.
Exactly. Right? So maybe they made a mistake.
Okay, so obviously he goes in his second year at LSU. You know what happens. Against my Sooners in the semifinal, he throws for 493 and 7 touchdowns with no interceptions and runs for a touchdown against Jalen Hurts and company. Again, Lincoln Riley plays. They never have any defense, but that was pretty predictable, and it was a complete and utter rout. What was it, like 63 to 29, 63 to 29? And then, remember, in the championship game, it's Trevor Lawrence on the other side, and he throws for 463, 5 touchdowns and no interceptions, and runs for a touchdown.
Right.
Well, how can you get much better than those two games?
You don't. And you remember what he did to Georgia in the SEC championship game? He threw for three something.
And he went to Alabama and threw a big party there, in Tuscaloosa. Okay, so he does that. Then he goes to the 2-14 Bengals because that's how they had the first overall pick. He gets hurt in his rookie year, and I think he went 2-7-1 for the team that was the worst team in the league. And then he bounces back in his second year, and guess what he does?
Take him to a Super Bowl.
He took him to a Super Bowl. He went through Mahomes to the Super Bowl. Came within a throw of winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And here he is in year number 3, and look at him now.
Yep.
He is poised to become the face of this league this weekend.
I don't think so, Skip.
Yep. Here we go. Well, let's see how it feels on Monday.
It'll feel the same.
Yeah.
Because